I'm Cody Henry, and this is my presentation over everything I've learned so far in G2. Starting off with biology, my first standard will be understand and apply knowledge of the cell, which is basically just knowing its structure, what makes it. I use this knowledge, what they taught me in class, to make a cell poster, which is basically just a cell poster relating the cell and what it's made out of to something in real life. I used a city. In creating the poster, I had to know basically all the components and what they do in the cell, such as the mitochondria being to produce power and the cell membrane for structure, sort of like a chain link fence. My second standard will be understanding and apply knowledge of chemical reactions, which is just knowing how chemical reactions work. And I use this for my fats public service announcement. I had to know how fats diffuse through the body and how they spread out and used in excess. Here's the video I did for here's my PSA. All right. Moving on to English. Our standards here are divided into 3 parts: writing, speaking, and reading. My first standard, which is writing, it says write informative explanatory text. Basically just saying use something to edit and make explanatory text. And for this I made my student blog, which is basically where all of our daily work went for the whole semester. Many of the things in the blog, like my paper about my role as a producer, have many different details and very thoroughly explain every aspect of it. And that's my producer documentary role. My second standard, which is reading, it says cite strong and thorough textual evidence. It basically means when writing something, cite somebody else. And for this, I cited a producer's magazine. It applies to several parts in the blog because most of our blogs we were asked to cite different things. And for back to my producer role, I cited magazine several times throughout it. There it is again. My third standard is work with peers to promote civil democratic discussions and decision making, which just means finding a way to get through people's will to do their own thing. You want to make sure everybody works together as one. And for that, I created a poster that organizes my group, my documentary group's tasks, and what we need to get completed. This was my first learning experience to make a collaboration chart. It's something that I've never done before. I've never really focused on making people collaborate together. Moving on to geometry, my first standard is experiment with transformations in a plane, which is just moving objects several places on maybe a piece of paper. And for this, for optical illusions, I did my eye chart. Basically, when making it, I had to experiment with several different shapes, find out what was the best thing to test people's eyesight. And I ended up with this because of its easiness to comprehend. For my second standard, I have look for and make use of structure, which is just look around the world like this desk is a rectangle. It's to see the shapes. This is from the first project where I was asked to find shapes in every picture I took and find them everywhere in life. We were asked to find certain shapes, like a circle or a chord, and edit them. Like that, I have a circle and a chord in there, the line crossing through it, 2 points. For my third standard, I have visualized relationships between 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional objects, which is just understanding how 2-dimensional objects are connected with 3D shapes. And this was also in the first project. I was asked to find a sphere. And initially, when I was searching for one, I kept finding circles and saying it was good enough. And I really had to refine my definition because, one, it's difficult to find a sphere in the real world. And as I refined my definition, I found the sun as my sphere. Moving on to world history, I have, for my first standard, understand how and why people create systems of power. And this is for my most recent project, an absolute leader poster, which is just a poster on a leader who had absolute power over whatever they ruled. For my group's poster, we had Catherine the Great, a leader from Russia, and she changed how their government worked. She codified laws, basically had them written down so she couldn't make them up as she went. And most of what she did while she was in power, she did because she craved more power. And in doing so, after creating the power, she used it to prolong itself, made the power sustain itself. And that's my poster. For my second standard, I have understand the role of innovation and development and interactions of societies, which is just how inventions help societies connect, how they got through their differences, and how they got through every day. And that is my first world history project where we were asked to research the inventions of past societies. In there, I researched the Mayan and Inca societies. In this project, I learned a lot on how Zero helped the Mayans, how they made a calendar with it, and how they created it independently of India. And for my next standard, I have, it says how people have changed the status quo, it basically says that. And that's returning to the absolute leader poster. I learned how Catherine the Great had changed how Russian society worked. She made it so the nobles had more power over the peasants instead of having less. So basically, the peasants were mostly slaves of the noble class. And a lot of this was exactly how the rest of Europe was doing it. They had power over everybody under them. And she did this in an effort to modernize Russia, take them out of the Dark Ages. And she followed Peter the Great in this way because Peter the Great focused a lot on making Russia instead of just being some third world country. For my 21st century skills, the skills that we need to know every day to get through life, I'm starting with professionalism, which basically means how you're dressed, how you're behaving, how you get things done. It basically says, I'm a professional, I can get what I need done, and I know what I'm doing. For exhibition night, I showed professionalism, I showed up on time, I was dressed appropriately, and through the entire thing, I was completely respectful of other people. And there, some of my group members being professionally dressed. For communication, which is a big thing when we're working in our documentaries, we need to be able to communicate our ideas with other people and explain to them how we think this will work the best. And for this, I used a lot to communicate with my interviewee when we were interviewing for our documentaries. I had to ask every question perfectly to get the correct answer out of them for everything I need in the documentary. And here our group is showing how we communicate. Critical thinking is the biggest of the 21st century skills because we have to use it with everything we do. It's asking those deeper questions, getting to deeper things instead of just staying on the surface, like 2 + 2 is equal to 2. Well, not 2, 4. But it's saying why that equals 4. And then the last one is collaboration, which applies to almost everything we've done in G2 so far, because we've been in groups the whole time. We've constantly worked with groups in biology and geometry, and it's something we need to focus on, getting along with other people, getting our group projects done. We need it done so we work with other people. And now I'm done.
10 minutes.
2 over 2 plus 2 over 2.
All right, thank you. What are you at? 10:02. Nice job.
What?
Nice.
This is mine, I don't want it.
There you are.